If you have $3,000 saved and you're thinking, "I'll never be a millionaire," I need you to hear this. You might not be behind. You might just be in the hardest part. And once you understand this, saving money stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like progress. Because here's what nobody tells you when you're starting out. The game changes, the rules shift. The effort you put in at the beginning, it compounds differently than the effort you put in later. And understanding that difference, really getting it, is the thing that keeps people going when every fiber of their being wants to quit. So if you've ever felt like you're doing everything right and still not seeing results, if you've ever wondered why personal finance feels easy for some people and impossible for you, if you've ever been tempted to just say, "Forget it," and spend everything because saving feels pointless, this video is for you. Stay with me. Everybody screams the same goal: become a millionaire. And look, cool. I'm not against that. I'm not here to tell you to dream smaller or settle for less. But for normal people with rent, groceries, kids, student loans, and surprise car repairs, $1 million doesn't feel like a goal. It feels like a different universe. It feels like something that happens to other people. People who got lucky. People who had help. People who started with advantages you don't have. And when the goal feels disconnected from your reality, it stops being motivating. It starts to be depressing. Think about it. If someone told you, "Hey, just climb that mountain over there," and the mountain is Everest, and you're standing there in sneakers with no training, you're not inspired. You're overwhelmed. That's what become a millionaire feels like when you're looking at your bank account and there's $3,000 in there, maybe less. Maybe you're still in the negatives, climbing out of debt. The gap between where you are and where they're telling you to be, it's not inspiring, it's paralyzing. But here's the twist. The journey to $1 million doesn't feel like a straight line, because the first $100,000 isn't just 10% of $1 million. It's the part where you build the habits, the discipline, the identity, and the money engine. And that's why the first $100,000 is the hardest money you will ever make. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's longtime business partner, he said it plainly. The first $100,000 is a boas. And he wasn't exaggerating. He wasn't being dramatic. He was stating a mathematical and psychological truth. The first $100,000 is where most people quit. Not because they're doing it wrong, but because they don't understand what phase they're in. And once you understand the phase, everything changes. The frustration doesn't disappear, but it makes sense. And when it makes sense, you can push through it. In a minute, I'll show you a simple visual that explains why the beginning feels slow and why it eventually starts speeding up. But first, let's talk about what that beginning actually feels like. Let's talk about the part nobody puts on a motivational poster. The beginning is frustrating. When you're starting from zero, every dollar saved has a story. It's a lunch you didn't buy. It's a night you stayed in while your friends went out. It's a second job you picked up on weekends. It's you doing math in your head at the checkout line, putting things back because you're $12 over budget. It's canceling subscriptions you actually enjoyed. It's saying no to weddings and trips and experiences because you're trying to build something. And the worst part? People keep saying compound interest like it's going to sparkle in your account, like it's magic, like you're going to wake up one day and boom, rich. But early on, compounding is basically invisible. Let me give you real numbers. If you have $5,000 invested and it grows 7% in a year, that's about $350. $350. That's not a life-changing moment. That's a few grocery runs and a tank of gas. Maybe 2 tanks if gas prices are good. You sacrificed for a year. You stayed disciplined. You resisted impulse purchases. You worked extra hours. And your reward is $350. Meanwhile, your friend who didn't save anything? They went on a vacation. They bought new clothes. They upgraded their phone. And from the outside, it looks like they're winning, and you're just tired. This is where most people quit. No, not because they're lazy, because it feels like you're pushing a boulder uphill and nothing is moving. You're bleeding effort. You're pouring everything you have into this account. And the number, it barely budges. I want to pause here and validate something. If you're in this phase right now, and it feels awful, you're not broken. The phase is hard. That's not a flaw in you. That's the nature of the phase. But listen carefully. In this stage, you're not just saving. You're building a system that can carry you. You're building the habits that millionaires have before you have the money millionaires have. You're developing the identity of someone who keeps financial promises to themselves. You're training your brain to delay gratification, to think long-term, to value future you as much as present you. And that internal work? That's not nothing. That's everything. Because here's the secret. Broke people who win the lottery go broke again. Why? Because they never built the system. They got the money without the engine. You're building the engine first. And yes, it's slow. Yes, it's hard. But it's also the only way that lasts. Quick check. Are you in the boulder pushing stage right now? Because if you are, you're exactly who this video is for. And I want you to know, you're not behind. You're in the hardest part. And that matters. Okay, here's the aha that changes how people stay consistent. We think growth is linear. Save a little, and the line climbs evenly. Save a little more, and it climbs a little more. Same effort, same result, predictable and steady. But investing growth is curved. The curve is the whole point. In the beginning, until you are doing most of the work. Your deposits matter more than your returns. You're the engine. Your paycheck is the fuel. Your discipline is what moves the needle. Later on, the returns start to matter more than your deposits. Your money becomes the engine. Compound interest becomes the fuel. And your job shifts from build it to don't mess it up. Let me paint the picture differently. At first, it's like this. Bucket number 1, you are pouring water in. Bucket number 2, your money is dripping. You're doing 95% of the work. Your investments are doing maybe 5%. But once the bucket gets bigger, the drip turns into a stream. Then the stream turns into a flow. And eventually, your money is doing more work than you are. Now, the exact timing depends on how much you invest, your returns, and your life. But emotionally, and often mathematically, the first $100,000 is the hardest because it's the part where the engine is still small. Let's use real numbers to make this concrete. Let's say you're investing $500 a month. That's $6,000 a year. That's a serious commitment for most people. It's not pocket change. Year 1, you contribute $6,000. At 7% growth, you end with around $6,200. Your investments earned you $200. You did $6,000 of work. Your money did $200. Year 5, you've now contributed $30,000 total. Your balance is around $35,000. Your investments earned about $5,000. You're still doing most of the heavy lifting, but your money is starting to pull its weight. Year 10, you've contributed $60,000. Your balance is around $86,000. Your investments have earned $26,000. Now your money is doing real work, but you're still not at $100,000 yet. But 10 years in, and you're still grinding. Year 15, you've contributed $90,000. Your balance is now around $158,000. Your investments have earned $68,000. Wait, what? You crossed $100,000 somewhere around year 12 or 13, and now suddenly, you're at $158,000. Year 20. You've contributed $120,000. Your balance is around $260,000. Your investments have earned $140,000. Your money just earned more than you contributed. Do you see what happened? The first $100,000 took over a decade of consistent $500 monthly contributions. But the next $100,000, it took way less time, and the pace keeps accelerating. This is why people say things like, "It took me forever to hit my first $100,000, and then things started moving faster." They're not exaggerating, they're describing the curve. The math is doing what it's supposed to do, but in the beginning, when you're in year 2 or year 5 and you're exhausted, the balance still looks small. It doesn't feel like it's working. That's the cruel trick of exponential growth. It looks linear or even stagnant until it doesn't. And then it looks magical. But it was always exponential. You just couldn't see it yet. Next, I'm going to show you the turning point moment, when your money starts matching your effort, and what that actually feels like in real life. There's a moment that feels like a mental exhale. At the start, you deposit $300, $500, $1,000, and your account barely reacts. You check it obsessively, hoping for some sign that it's working. And it just sits there, mocking you. But later, you look up and realize, wait, my account moved a lot this month, and I didn't even do anything different. You didn't get a raise. You didn't win anything. You didn't inherit money. You just kept going, and your money started helping. That's the moment your money starts helping. I'll tell you when I feel it. I was maybe 6 or 7 years into consistent investing. I'd been putting money away every month like clockwork. Some months I contributed more, some months barely anything, but I never stopped. One month, I logged into my account, and I saw my balance had gone up by $3,000. But I'd only contributed $800 that month. I literally stared at the screen trying to figure out if there was an error. Nope, no errors. The market had a good month. My investments grew. And for the first time, I felt like my money was working. It wasn't carrying me yet. I was still doing most of the work, but it wasn't dead weight anymore. It was contributing. Imagine walking up a steep hill with a heavy backpack. At first, every step is work. Your legs burn. Your lungs scream. You're questioning every decision that led you to this hill. Then you hit flatter ground, and eventually, it starts tilting in your favor. You still have to walk. You still have to stay consistent. But it stops feeling like you're fighting gravity every single day. That's the shift. And once you feel it, once you see your money actually doing something, it changes your whole relationship with saving. It stops feeling like sacrifice. It starts feeling like a partnership. You're still contributing, but now your money is contributing too. And every month, it contributes a little more. So if you remember one thing from this video, remember this. The first $100,000 is hard on purpose. That doesn't mean it's not working. That means you're building the part that makes everything else easier. You're building the foundation that everything else rests on. And foundations are slow. Foundations are invisible. But without them, nothing stands. Now let's make this real. Here are practical steps that actually work, without needing a perfect life, a high income, or a finance degree. Step 1. Shrink the goal so you don't quit. Stop aiming at $1 million right now. I'm serious. Take that goal and put it in a drawer for later. That's not your target today. That's too abstract, too far away, too disconnected from the actions you need to take this week. Aim at $10,000 first, then $25,000, then $50,000. then $100,000. Each of these milestones is achievable. Each one is close enough that you can visualize it. And each one builds momentum. When you hit $10,000, something shifts psychologically. You go from, I'm trying to save, to, I'm someone who has $10,000 saved. That's not just semantics, that's identity. And identity drives behavior way more than willpower ever will. When you hit $25,000, you start to believe the next milestone is possible. When you hit $50,000, you're halfway to $100,000, and the finish line is in sight. Break the mountain into hills. Climb the hills one at a time. Celebrate each one, because each one matters. Step 2. Automate everything, because willpower is a myth. Automate your investing the same way you automate bills, because willpower is unreliable, especially when life gets loud. You know what happens when you rely on willpower? January, you're motivated. You manually transfer $500 to your investment account, and you feel great. February, you're busy. You forget. Or you remember. But you're tired, and you tell yourself, I'll do it tomorrow. March, something breaks. Your car needs repairs. You skip investing that month because you have to. April, you've lost momentum. You're not sure how much you're even supposed to be contributing. The habit is broken. Automation removes all of that. Set it up once. Let it run. Every paycheck, the money moves automatically. You don't have to think. You don't have to decide. You don't have to remember. And here's the bonus. When the money never hits your main checking account, you don't miss it. You build your life around what's left. And that's how people who aren't good with money end up with 6 figures saved. Not because they're disciplined, because they're automated. Step 3. Build a small emergency fund first, so you stop restarting. If you don't have an emergency fund, every surprise expense will raid your future. Even a starter emergency fund, $500, $1,000, can keep you from constantly restarting at zero. Here's what happens without one. You're investing consistently. You're proud of yourself. You're building momentum. Then your dog gets sick, or your laptop dies, or your kid needs something for school. You don't have cash sitting around, so you pull from your investments. Or worse, you put it on a credit card and start accruing interest. Now, you're not just back to zero, you're behind zero. And the shame spiral starts. I can't do this. I'm bad with money. Why do I even try? An emergency fund is a buffer between life's chaos and your long-term goals. Oh, it's not sexy. It's not going to compound into millions. But it's the thing that keeps you in the game when life gets messy. And life always gets messy. Step 4. If you have high-interest debt, make a plan. Not shame, a plan. If you're paying 18% interest on credit card debt, it's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in it. You don't need shame, you need a plan. I'm not going to tell you to stop investing completely until your debt is gone. That's the traditional advice, and for some people it's right. But for others, it kills momentum. Here's a middle path. Invest enough to get any employer match. That's free money. Don't leave it on the table. Then attack your high-interest debt with everything else you've got. Pay minimums on everything except the highest interest debt. Throw every extra dollar at that one. When it's gone, move to the next one. This is the debt avalanche method, and it's mathematically optimal. There's also the debt snowball method, smallest balance first, which is psychologically optimal because you get quick wins. Pick the one that fits your brain. Both work. Neither works if you quit. And here's the thing about debt. It's not a moral failure. It's not a character flaw. It's a financial situation. And situations can change. Step 5. Increase your income, because saving alone has a ceiling. And yes, saving matters. But income is the accelerator. Negotiate. Switch roles. Learn a skill. Start a side income. Not because you're greedy, because you want breathing room. You can only cut expenses so far. There's a floor. You still need food, shelter, and transportation. But income has no ceiling. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it's possible. And if you're serious about building wealth, you need to think about both sides of the equation. Spend less and earn more. Negotiate your salary. Most people never ask. And most people leave tens of thousands of dollars on the table over the course of their careers because they never asked. Switch jobs strategically. Job hopping every 2 to 3 years can result in significantly higher lifetime earnings than staying loyal to one company. Learn a high-income skill: coding, copywriting, design, sales, skills that the market values and will pay for. Start a side income, not a get-rich-quick scheme. A real skill you can monetize. Freelancing, consulting, teaching, selling something people actually need. Every extra $500 a month you can direct toward your goals shaves years off the timeline. Years. Step 6. Understand the season you're in and stop comparing. Your first $100,000 is mostly built with contributions and consistency. That's normal. That's the season you're in. You're not in the "my money works for me" season yet. You're in the "I work for my money and I'm building the engine" season. And that's okay. That's not failure. That's the process. Stop comparing yourself to people who are 10 years ahead of you. Stop comparing yourself to people who started with advantages you didn't have. Compare yourself to the past you. Are you further along than you were a year ago? 6 months ago? Then you're winning. Wealth building is not a sprint. It's not even a marathon. It's a decades-long journey with different seasons. And each season requires different strategies and different mindsets. In the beginning, you need grit. You need stubbornness. You need to show up even when it feels pointless. Later, you need patience. You need to not mess it up. You need to stay the course when the market dips and everyone's panicking. Even later, you need wisdom. You need to know when to take risks off the table, how to protect what you've built, and how to transition from accumulation to preservation. But right now, you need to keep going. That's it. That's the whole job. Let's talk about something nobody mentions: the identity shift that happens when you commit to this. In the beginning, you're trying to save money. That's how you describe yourself. You're trying. It's aspirational. Well, it's something you're attempting, but it's not who you are yet. But after a year of consistent contributions, after 2 years, after you hit that first $10,000 milestone, you stop saying, "I'm trying to save." You start saying, "I'm an investor. I'm building wealth. I'm someone who prioritizes my future." That shift from trying to being, it's everything. Because once it's part of your identity, you stop needing motivation. You don't need a pep talk to brush your teeth, right? Because you're someone who brushes their teeth. It's just what you do. Same thing with saving and investing. Once it's part of who you are, it stops being a battle. It's just what you do. And the people around you start to notice. They start to see you differently. They start asking you for advice. And that reinforces the identity even more. You become the person in your friend group who's good with money, the person who has their stuff together, the person who's building something. And that identity, it protects you during hard times. Because when you're tempted to quit, you don't just think about the money. You think about who you've become. And you don't want to lose that. Here's something wild. The compound effect doesn't just apply to your investments. It applies to everything. The habits you build while saving your first $100,000, they spill over into other areas of your life. You learn to delay gratification. That helps you in your career, in your relationships, in your health. You learn to set long-term goals and stay committed when the results aren't immediate. So that makes you better at everything that matters. You learn to ignore peer pressure and social comparison. That's a superpower in a world designed to make you feel inadequate. You learn to trust the process even when you can't see the results yet. That's the difference between people who succeed and people who quit. So yes, you're building a $100,000 investment account, but you're also building resilience, discipline, patience, and self-trust. You're becoming someone who keeps promises to themselves, someone who does hard things, someone who plays the long game. And that person can do anything. Let's be real. Life is going to interrupt your plan. That's not pessimism, that's reality. You're going to have months where you can't contribute as much, or at all. You're going to face emergencies, setbacks, with unexpected expenses, life changes. You might lose your job. You might have a medical crisis. You might go through a divorce, a death in the family, a pandemic. And in those moments, you're going to be tempted to think, I failed. I couldn't stay consistent. I'm not cut out for this. But here's the truth. Consistency doesn't mean perfection. It means returning. You miss a month? That's fine. Come back next month. You have to pause for 6 months. That's fine. Come back when you can. The people who win at this game aren't the ones who never stumble. They're the ones who stumble and get back up. Your investment account doesn't care if you took a break. It cares that you came back. And every time you come back after a setback, you're proving something to yourself. You're proving that you're the kind of person who doesn't quit. That's worth more than the money. Mindset isn't woo-woo, it's practical. Because the story you tell yourself about money will determine what you do with it. If you tell yourself, I'm not good with money, you'll act like someone who's not good with money. You'll avoid looking at your accounts. You'll make impulsive decisions. You'll self-sabotage. If you tell yourself, money is evil, you'll unconsciously push it away. You'll feel guilty for wanting it. You'll sabotage your own success because deep down, you don't want to be one of those people. If you tell yourself, I'll never have enough, you'll live in scarcity mode forever. You'll hoard. You'll stress. You'll never enjoy what you have because you're always afraid it'll disappear. But if you tell yourself, I'm learning, I'm building, I'm capable, everything changes. You start to see opportunities instead of obstacles. You start to take action instead of waiting for permission. You start to trust yourself. And self-trust is the foundation of wealth, because you can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you don't trust yourself to execute, you won't. So, audit your money stories. Where did they come from? Are they serving you, or are they holding you back? And if they're holding you back, rewrite them. You are the author of your story. Act like it. One thing that makes this journey harder than it needs to be, doing it alone. Money is such a taboo topic. We don't talk about it. We don't share our goals. We don't admit it when we're struggling. And because of that, everyone feels isolated. Everyone thinks they're the only one who's finding it hard. But you're not. This is hard for everyone in the beginning. Everyone. So find your people. Find a community, online or in person, of people who are on the same journey. Share your milestones. Celebrate each other's wins. Support each other through setbacks. When you're tempted to give up, you'll have people who remind you why you started. When you hit a goal, you'll have people who actually understand what it took. And accountability works. When you know someone's going to ask, how's your saving going? You're more likely to follow through. You don't need a huge community. Even one accountability partner can make a massive difference. I know what it feels like to save and still feel broke, to do the right things and wonder if they matter. I know what it feels like to watch other people live these big, fun lives while you're over here eating leftovers and skipping trips because you're being responsible. I know what it feels like to question whether any of this is worth it. But every time you save instead of spend, you're not just moving money. You're building a version of you that keeps promises. You're proving to yourself that you can do hard things, that you can delay gratification, that you can think long-term in a world that's obsessed with right now. And one day, I promise you this, you're going to look at that number. Maybe it's $100,000. Maybe it's $250,000. Maybe it's more. And it's going to hit you. I did that. Not because you got lucky, not because you had help, not because it was easy, but because you stayed consistent when it was boring, when it was slow, when nobody clapped. Your future self is going to look back at this version of you, the one pushing the boulder, the one grinding through the invisible years, and feel so much gratitude. They're going to think, thank God I didn't quit. Thank God I kept going. Don't quit in the hardest part. The engine is being built, and your future self is going to be so grateful you didn't give up. This is general education, not personal financial advice. Your situation is unique. Do what fits your life, your goals, your circumstances. But whatever you do, don't quit in the hardest part. If this gave you hope, hit like and subscribe. And if you're working toward your first $100,000, comment, "Building my engine." I'll see you in the next one. Now go build your engine. Future you is counting on you.